Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and this is Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. I'm Wayne Tuttle. I'm your host. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notification bell. Leave a comment. Be careful about comments this one. And visit our website at www.legendsofsuperstitionmountains.com. You can get a hold of us there through email. This week is going to be a bit different. Trevor's somewhere in Europe, but we're going to do a piece right now on something we've had for quite some time. I wanted to find the right timing and place for it. I think this is the time and place. We're talking about Khayman Welch. He went missing August 12th, 2020. It's been almost 5 years since he's been missing in the Superstitions. I was approached by the story. I'd heard about it, and I knew several people who had been grid searching as individuals. Dutch hunters, guys on the ground, putting a lot of time out there. And I know there was 3 or 4 of them, and they would coordinate, and quietly we were keeping track of where everybody was. So if someone went out in the area, we didn't have any thoughts about anything other than just kind of when you're out there, keep your eyes open. I was approached last fall. Mike Cotter, a friend of Khayman's, wanted to come out to the rendezvous and said, would it be okay if I got up and talked for a few minutes about Cayman? He's still missing. It's been a while. It's going to be going on 5 years. And I said, you know what? I don't have a problem with that. Get up. You can have 10, 15, 20 minutes, answer questions, see if that can build for something or help bring closure to the family. So that was the entire reason and purpose. Mike's a great guy. I've met with him a few times. Talk with Mike, stay in touch with him. It came out, did very well. Afterwards, I told him, you know, what would you think of doing a video or something about it? Let me look into what's been done. I'm not into the conspiracy angles or out there trying to do the mysterious things. I just want to do facts, truth, just straightforward. And I'm not looking for the views. I'm looking for the closure for the family. And Mike said, that'd be a great thing. And I said, let me think about it. And if you're open to it, because I thought, well, Mike knows a lot about what had been happening in New Cayman. And I watched the videos, was very disappointed in a lot of how they were structured and done. They brought some attention, but they brought the wrong kind of attention at times. So I went back to Mike and I said, we'd like to do a video, but there's only one way to tell this story. And I said, could you talk to Khayman's uncle, Brian Welch? And ask Brian if he would just come on camera, stream of consciousness, beginning to end, just tell the story of the day, how things occurred, and what happened that day. I said, that's all I'd really think everybody should hear. It's not second, third-hand information. It's just straight from Brian. And he said, yeah, I'll talk to him. I don't know how he'll feel about it, because Brian had never really done much. And he'd been out for one of the searches or 2 of the searches and stuff, but Brian agreed. He said, yeah, nobody's really asked me that. And I said, okay, fine. So this took place. We went actually out to the Weavers Needle Overlook site where Khayman and Brian were. I wanted to make sure Brian was comfortable with that. He was. So he could show us where he parked. We didn't want to do a documentary film. I just wanted him to be very familiar in the circumstance, so his memory had been years. And he'd been thinking about it a little, but I told him, just stream of consciousness. I'm going to leave you here. It's Trevor and a camera. And Mike and I went and sat down a little bit of ways, just to let Brian have the air. He got emotional at times, and which is understandable, but we wanted it portrayed in the clearest and best possible light it is. So without any further ado, thank you, Brian, so much, and Mike, for allowing us to do this for you. Does it bring closure? Does it bring an end to this thing in some way? We could hope so. But here in the words of Brian Welch is the last day that we know that anyone saw Khayman Welch.
I'm Brian Welch. On August 12th of 2020, I stopped by my mother's house in the morning because I had been dispatched to work on a walk-in cooler at Tortilla Flats down the road here. Stopped by my mom's house. Was hoping my brother would come and help me. He wasn't there. My nephew's sitting there, Khayman Welch, and said, "You want to go with me?" He said, "Sure." Go right on. I got somebody to come to work with me today. So down the road we go, 10, 11 in the morning, something like that. Get to Tortilla Flats, we replace a compressor. Halfway through the job, we needed more parts, so we drove back in to town. And right around here, my nephew looks and he says, "Is that the Weavers Needle?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Can we stop there when we're done?" I said, "Sure." So 2 o'clock, we're driving into town. We'll go back to Tortilla Flats. We finished there 5:30, 6. During that day, had a good day with my nephew. Just hung out like we usually did. At one point, he laid down on the ground because it was cooler, and I was like, "Whoa, hey, lay over here on the chair, not right in a walk path." And the reason I say that is because after everything had happened, I was told he'd spent the night before just having a good party night, so that explained why he was laying down. I never crossed my mind. I just figured it was morning, he was tired. So we come back here, and I park right next to this Ramada, and we had a chicken sandwich in the car and a cup of lemonade that was left over. And I told him I'm just gonna sit and listen to the radio. I think the comedy channel used to be on the radio back then, so I was just sitting there listening. I turn and I look, and my nephew's looking at the map right here. And I eat my sandwich, and I figured he went up this sidewalk path here because Weaver's Needle's over there, and it was coming on sunset. And the sun hits Weaver's Needle really neat. When the sun sets, it goes up. The sun disappears up Weaver's Needle. It's just really neat thing to watch sunset on Weaver's Needle. Right about after sun, it started getting dim. I mean, we got mountains here, so it wasn't sunset, but it started to dim out a little. Took off my shoes and I walked up this concrete, got a stretch on my toes. I think I had flip-flops on that day. And got up to the end, there's a path and a chair. Where the sidewalk ends, there's a chair. So I sat there and watched the sunset. And sat there, and sat there. And I'm telling myself, my nephew's 25. Don't need to worry, he's not a little kid. Don't need to worry. And sat there. It started getting dark. So I walk forward, I've got my cell phone, and I'm yelling his name, because I figured he would be close. He'd be on his way back. I start to walk, it's getting darker. The cell phone on the camera, I'm yelling his name, and at one point when I was yelling, it kind of echoed in a couple directions, and it was dark enough. I didn't know what was ahead of me. I don't like, I don't know. I turned back around, came down. So that night there was the constellations, or not constellations, the meteor shower, the Pleiades meteor shower was going on during that day, and that was, for me, a neat thing. I saw a couple sitting over here in the parking lot. I go knock on their window and say, "Hey, excuse me, did you see a boy come on down through here?" They're like, "No, we haven't seen anybody." I said, "My nephew went up here and he didn't come down." They're like, "Ooh, hey, you better call somebody if somebody hasn't come back down." Now, I'm not from here, but I saw on the news all the time, all these people, they'd go up Camelback and you end up with search and rescue. And I didn't realize it was that quick, like just barely after sunset, they're not back, make a call. But at this point, it was probably an hour after dark. It was good and dark. I drove up the road to Lost Dutchman, made a phone call, and it was kind of funny. The first sheriff, it took forever. The first sheriff's office that we got to when I had cell phone service dispatched me to the wrong sheriff's service. I don't know how that was, but after a whole long time sitting on the phone telling everybody who it was, they said, "Oh, sorry, we got to transfer you to a different organization." Sheriffs maybe were this area, and search and rescue was a different area, maybe, if I remember right. So, sitting here, I remember around midnight they had a helicopter, and stayed here till about 5 o'clock that morning, and they told me you should probably just go home, get some rest. Okay, so looking at things 5 years later, I assumed he went that way. I honestly didn't see him walk in any direction. One of the good family friends, he's like, well, Khayman's a wild, crazy guy. Don't you think he would have gone to the best view? I mean, I think he would have tried to climb up. And he pointed somewhere. He was like, I think he would have tried to climb up there. And I got thinking, well, maybe. But it was the last thought on my head. We came here to look at the sunset on Weavers Needle. You know, all the mystery of the Weavers Needle and the history with it being the Lost Dutchman gold. Earlier, 2020 was that year, we had spent a good amount of time up above Lake Pleasant. Khayman was there 2.5, 3 weeks with his dad, panning for gold. The legend, the lore of Lost Dutchman. It's a common thing when you get the gold bug out here and you're trying to do gold panning. I never enjoyed gold panning. Too much tedious, physical, fruitless labor. But I enjoyed hanging out with them when they were working. I'd sit at the camp or read a book or something. I, back then, said it was almost like I feel like I'm in a Twilight Zone episode. But it makes no sense. Nothing made sense. Search and rescue got here. My nephew had left his wallet in the glove box. So we had that. They let the dogs smell that. The dogs went this way. And I guess up and over that way. And then around 5 when they told me to go home, they had said that they had gone up this way around the corner and then they'd lost the scent. And yeah, I don't know. Khayman was never an angry kid. There was once I talking upset about somebody in the family and he just said, hey, can't we just stop with things like this? This is our family. This is all we've got. That was the worst I'd ever seen him. When you say anger, he was not a kid prone to anger. Or I never saw him sad. I never saw him angry. The once he jumped at me for talking tea about the family, that kind of shocked me. That's how a lot of family does, is we talk about family. So when he shut me down and told me to stop that day, that kind of surprised me. But no, I didn't think he was upset or angry. He was distracted. I know he was distracted because at one point he's like, I think I'm going to work with you for a while. And offered him to come to work with me. And I was like, oh, well, your brother's going to be upset, or my brother, your father. My brother's going to be upset because I just offered him that he could come to work with me. And he goes, what? Huh? That was how I think that he was distracted. And I said, well, what's going on? He said, I'm just trying to figure out stuff. When we were driving here right before the 5:30, 6:30 timeline, we were coming back this way, he did express a lot of, I told him he should just jump ship from where he's at being tattoo shop, go open up his own tattoo shop and do his own thing. And he just would express these heavy doubts. And I said, why aren't you believing in yourself? Why aren't you gonna go do that? And he just goes, when I got trained to do this, I was told I needed to work for a certain amount of time to become what it is I am. I don't really think that I am of quality to own my own shop. And I said, buddy, in California, there was a shop for sale for like $5,000. You could get into a shop on the boardwalk, have your own tattoo shop. We talked about that coming back this way. He had expressed he was just trying to figure out what's going on in life, but no words of upset, no words of depression, no words of not feeling good. When I called my brother, he said, why did you take your eyes off him? He's not doing well. He's dealing with heavy thoughts and just mental well-being. And I didn't know that. I hung out with my nephew that next morning, and well, the reason I say that is the night before, apparently he had partied. There was copious amounts of alcohol drunk that evening. And in my head I go, oh, well, that's why he was laying down. I figured he was a little hungover, if anything. I had never thought he was being depressed and not feeling good about things. I had never seen that part with my nephew. It gets dark at 9 in the summer, but sun starts to set and we were at a little elevation, so I guess the sun sets that way. So it was dim when I started to walk up that way, because the heavy here in Arizona, it gets real hot in the afternoon, evening, when the sun beats on you from the west, coming from that way this way. So when it started to dim down, it's nice. I went for the walk. No, there was nothing really said. Oh, he wanted to see here, and I was just tired after being out in the day. People say the day was 108. I told myself it was like 118. It was just a hot day. And I didn't want to go for a walk at that time in the night. So I sat in the truck, listening to music, ate a sandwich that he didn't eat because he left his. We both got chicken sandwiches. He didn't eat his, so I ate his because I was hungry. And, that was it. Just.
I think every time we went out with Mindy, we tried to search like a different area. So that year search, we searched from like here or that way. Okay. But like, the trail goes kind of more that way, the other direction. Wanted to see that spot where the dogs lost the scent. But I went from the first water, the horse lot. I'm not too sure. I know the last time I saw him was like December 2019. I was getting tattoo work done, and then we texted a little bit back and forth after that. Probably the last time might have been like March or April. But I mean, it was like COVID, like tattoo work and stuff. Like he would be like, oh, I haven't talked to my mom in a couple of days. I better text her or call her. Like he couldn't go very long without speaking to her. And then, well, he was living with his girlfriend not very long, but whatever that last, I want to say week, I don't remember the time frame. He went and stayed back with his grandma. So a lot of his belongings are still at her house or her apartment. She thinks he's just gonna show back up. Yeah, but nobody really knew. He was wearing all black jeans, black shirt.
Perfect in this parking lot.
Right. No, because where I went was either on either side of it. Like I kind of searched around the top of this hill, and then I want to say we probably pretty much went up to that ridgeline when that one group searched.
So there we go. That's the story as it should be told. It was very warm that day, that evening. 109 degrees in the parking lot at that point in the day. This was really brought on to wrap it up and do what we're doing right now because of several deaths that have happened recently that have been on the news. There's other disappearances we'll find about as the summer goes. It doesn't take much. I've experienced that with other people. Myself, I've had bad days. When you're not in the best of circumstances, dehydrated, you haven't eaten, you've had a long day, it doesn't take long for heat exhaustion or heat stroke to hit you. It just can be minutes, and you usually don't know it's happening when it's happening. Until you've had it, it's hard because your brain begins to misfunction. It doesn't matter how healthy you are, as if you followed the news recently. It doesn't matter how active you are. It doesn't matter your age. It just happens to people. I think this is a good caveat, a warning to everyone as we enter the summer, of that these things do happen, and they happen at the worst possible moment when you don't expect it. The search and rescue, I've talked to the search and rescue unit and the individuals that were involved with that. And one of the problems again was in the infrared, it's summer heat. Everything's hot. The heat is coming off of everything. The dogs tracked to a certain point and lost the scent. My thoughts, and I really, really feel pretty secure in this, is that whenever it happened probably more quickly than we would even think, and Cayman was in trouble. And he didn't realize it, or he did realize it, and the disorientation, which has happened to so many people, took place. And that, whether it's heat exhaustion, heat stroke, or any other reason, Cayman's still out there. I hope through people who continue to go out, not right now in the summer heat, but times, keep this in mind. It's been 5 years. You're not looking for much of anything. But if you see something out of place, contact the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department. They still do have an open file. They're willing to hear of any leads or anything. Do not touch anything. You could photograph it and send them a picture, send them the coordinates, but don't approach anything. If you see it, keep your distance so they could do a possible forensic study to find out what really happened. So to Cayman's family, Brian and their friends, Mike Cotter and everyone, thank you for letting us share this. It means something if we can bring from our community closure to someone after a time. We'll all feel better about it, but it's still going to happen. And maybe this is a good warning to everyone. No matter how tough you think you are, no matter how great a shape you are, things happen. And when you're in your worst set of circumstances, things happen even more quickly. Thank you for joining us. I hope to see you again next week and hope you have a great rest of the week. Always remember though, I'm Wayne Tuttle, you're not. And this was Chasing Legends.